Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. My name is Taniza Islam. I am the CEO of South Dakota Voices for Peace. Tonight, we are gathering to hear from some renowned and trusted leaders in our community about why they're inspired to make calls to our legislators to ask them for an immediate ceasefire, and what it means to work in solidarity. South Dakota Voices for Peace's mission is really to enable healing and build power in immigrant and refugee communities across our state. We do that through amplifying people's voices and working in solidarity, all of whom all fight bigotry and racism. And this event really encapsulates all of what we do in the state. And I'm really honored to have our co-sponsors and guest speakers with us here tonight. So I'm new at the webinar thing, so I ask for everyone's patience. I can't figure out how to put my slideshow presentation up and have all the speakers here at the same time. But my first slide was really pretty, which I'll try to bring up here when I transition back to the PowerPoint. But the agenda for today really is to hear from our co-sponsors and our guest speaker, Dr. Awadella. And then we'll go into 5 easy steps on how to call Senators Rounds, Thune, Representative Johnson, and President Biden's message line. We'll do a quick role play. We'll show you how to tally the calls that you are making so that we can tell everyone, South Dakota, that we've collectively made 500 calls in the next 2 weeks, which is our goal. And then we'll open it up for questions and answers. So Melissa McCauley is one of our outreach coordinators here at Voices for Peace, and she is watching the Q&A box. So if you do have a question, please drop it into the Q&A box, and she will flag the ones for me that she'd like me to take care of, and we'll do that at the very end. So again, thank you very much. And I'd love to invite Reverend Christina O'Hara for some comments.
Thank you for having me. I am an Episcopal priest, and I am also part of South Dakota Faith and Public Life, which is a group of interfaith leaders from various religious backgrounds, and we come together to model dialogue. And so we have put a statement up about this very topic on our website. So I'm going to share that. And I just did 2 baptisms this past Sunday with some wonderful kids in my very small church, Episcopal church. And in our baptismal covenant in the Episcopal Church, we promise to strive for justice and peace among all people, and to respect the dignity of every human being. And that seems to encapsulate for me why I'm here tonight, to strive for justice and peace and to respect the dignity of every human being. So the South Dakota Faith and Public Life statement, particularly around this conflict that is going on in Israel and Palestine, says that we at South Dakota Faith and Public Life acknowledge the suffering and the loss of life that has already occurred and is occurring ongoing in Israel and Palestine. And we're deeply concerned about these rising tensions that are spiraling into greater violence with tragic consequences for the people of the region, both Israeli and Palestinian. Along with many faith communities, we pray for and want to act for immediate cessation of violence, a commitment by all concerned to resolve conflicts through peaceful means, through dialogue, through negotiation. Our mission at South Dakota Faith and Public Life is to seek a collaborative dialogue among people of all faith traditions in order to give voice to diverse religious perspectives committed to compassion, to justice, to the common good, so that religion can serve as a unifying positive force. And this abrupt escalation of conflict in Israel and Palestine challenges us to remain committed to this mission. In that spirit, we denounce all acts of violence towards all people. Violence that erupts in any part of the world should be a call for us to remember how important and impactful open, compassionate dialogue can be on a local and a human level, as well as an international level. Building bridges of appreciative understanding and respect among diverse groups is how we enrich our community and how we provide an example for future generations. As we struggle to process the horrific events that are going on, we ask all of us to engage with sensitivity, empathy, and understanding as communities and individuals, and also courage to use our voices, to share our perspectives, and shape these world events through our voices. We strongly encourage that openness of expression and listening, and speaking up for peace. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, Reverend, for being here and for your support in this work always. I would like to mention that the South Dakota Synod of the ELCA is also a co-sponsor, but Bishop Hagemeyer is out of the state and was unable to join us, but stands firmly on the side of justice and peace as well, and shared with me that there is actually an ELCA church in Jerusalem of Palestinian Christians, and so they're working closely with that congregation to assist in various ways. So next, I'll invite Natalie Stites-Means to share a few words.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to gather together to learn some tools that will help us to express our feelings, our rage, our sentiments about what is happening in the world, and that what is happening in the world is important to us here in South Dakota, in Rapid City. I'm a tribal member with the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. I am the executive director for the Coup Council here in Rapid City. Our organization stands for Community United, for organizing, for uniting, Community Organized for Organizing for United Power, COUP. And I stand with Tunisia, her organization, for several years now, in trying to figure out what's going on in South Dakota. And it is no surprise to me that those organizations, individuals, and parties that are promoting hate in our homelands, that they support aggression, violence, and war in Palestine today. As an Indigenous person, we are familiar with the ongoing effects of settler colonialism, the dispossession of the land, and the disenfranchisement from the nation, from the nation state. And living under those conditions is something that Lakota people identify with. And we have historically supported the struggle of the Palestinian people. We support a ceasefire, a cease the violence, and to cease genocide against defenseless civilians and children. And I thought it was important that we participate and co-sponsor and raise our voices, because I too am waking up every day with this struggle and the Palestinian children and their families on my mind, and all of the mothers and the life that is being annihilated in very distinct ways, very distinct and familiar ways to Native Americans living here in the United States. So I want to extend our understanding, our friendship, and our commitment, our shared commitment to peace. And I also am looking forward to these very practical tools on how to raise our voices at higher levels, to the elected officials, to the people with power and authority, who can communicate our sentiment and our position where it needs to be. And I hope that we are able to change the minds of our delegation, and we are able to show that the majority of us, all of us together, across faiths, across races, that we support peace and we support a ceasefire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalie, for always being in the trenches with us on all of these issues. I've learned a lot from you over the years, so thank you so much. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Sami Awadella to share a few words.
Yeah, thank you again for inviting me. I'm not really sure where to start, but definitely a ceasefire now is critical moment in this lowest point of this ugly war, where we now to the point where hospitals, I'm talking as a physician, being sieged, bombarded, seeing images of premature babies, have no warmers, no suction, and no ventilator, as if we are, and I know who's responsible for that, pull off life support in these little human beings that have nothing to do with this ugly war that waged against a Palestinian people, collective punishment, and attempts for forced displacement for the second time. I want to talk to you about my experience as a Palestinian who lived under the occupation, but it might take a long time to talk about it, but I am from Palestine. I still carry Palestinian passport. I still travel there. In fact, I was there in August with my daughter. I want you to know that 7 years before I was born, my father, my mother, and my little sister had to leave their village in Jerusalem area out of fear for themselves during the 1948 war, when there were massacres committed against villages in Palestine. There was the forceful displacement and there was the fearful displacement. And my father had to live in a camp near Bethlehem in a tent distributed by the United Nations. And now where he started as a refugee, there are 3 major refugee camps: the Haisha camps, the Gaza camps, and Haida camp, all now crowded camp for generational Palestinians who were forcefully displaced in 1948. I was 12 years old when the West Bank was occupied, and I experienced firsthand as a youth in high school how to face military occupation. I was jailed in 1974 by Israel for resisting the occupation and writing in the local newspaper. I was arrested again as I returned to visit my parents from medical school in Jordan in 1976. And as I go every year to visit, things are getting worse and worse. Palestinians under collective punishment, restriction of movements, and threat by the settlers. I mean, if I go to Naples, which is a city in the West Bank, I have to go through military checkpoint. I have to exit through military checkpoint in a city that's surrounded by settlers. I would call each city in Palestine small Gaza, because it's really apartheid state in a sense. At this point in our life, I want you to know from where I am coming. I want our elect official government to hear my voice as a Palestinian who lived and experienced the occupation, and still he and his family do. And that's really, I want them to see us as they fully see the Israeli side. They need to know, and I received this letter from Senator Thune, that really it just kind of heartbreaking to read through it, and hardly mentioning of the Palestinian as people there. He wants to defend Israel. He wants to send $6 billion to Israel. And he doesn't talk about the root cause of this suffering. They really have total blind eye about what's going on there. And these elect officials, they need to know that there will be no security for Israel without justice for the Palestinians. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Awodela, for your very personal voice and local voice. I think it's always really critical to remember that though things may be happening overseas or at the southern border or wherever we're doing our work, it impacts us directly here in South Dakota in so many different ways. So thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you.
All right, so as I mentioned early on, this is the first time I'm doing a webinar, so please bear with me as I try to share my screen for the PowerPoint presentation here. All right, can you all see that? Okay, so today, what we're going to be doing next is going through 5 very simple steps on how to call Senator Thune, Rounds, and Representative Johnson, as well as President Biden's message line. I want to emphasize that this is a national call to action. All major Palestinian, Muslim, and Palestinian ally organizations across the country are asking constituents to call, not email, not write letters, not write petitions, not just show up at a meeting, but to really call so we can collectively say we've made this many calls. Based on the support of Ceasefire here in our community, we've set the goal to have 500 total calls starting today. So when we get off this webinar, you'll be equipped to call these phone numbers and leave messages. But we're asking you to call every day from now until December 1st. And the way that we will tally how many calls are being made is by you filling out a Google form for every call. And we will go through that very quickly. We'll do a quick role play and then again, open up for questions and answers at the end. So oftentimes I feel this way, and I hear this from other people in our community. Is it really worth it to call our representatives in Washington, D.C., because we know very publicly what their stances are on most issues? And I recently went to a webinar where a prominent Palestinian American activist, Nihad Awad, the founder of the Council on American Islamic Relations, said, Palestinians need us here in the United States to call, to tell our elected officials that we're watching and that our voice matters as much as anyone else's. And you don't have to be a US citizen or even 18 or older to make these calls. Once someone is elected, they represent all of us. Thune, Rounds, and Johnson represent all of us here in South Dakota, and we have to speak out about this issue. And we would love to be able to say, we know that at least 500 calls are made. And I know there are other organizations, phone banking, writing letters, sending petitions. But I encourage everyone on this call and folks that you know that are trying to figure out what to do in this moment to do something. Some of us feel called to go to a protest, and it is a real sense of solidarity to be in those groups. Some of us are a little bit more shy and maybe want to just talk to our neighbors of what we know. And some of us want to call our legislators. Some of us want to donate. Some of us pray. Some of us do all of these things. Regardless of what you choose to do, please do something. And of course, I'm going to encourage you and make it really easy to understand how to make these calls to our elected officials in Washington, D.C. I was looking at Instagram the other day, and I wanted to share this video of 100 staffers who staged a walkout from their offices in Washington, D.C. for a call to action, and hope that this inspires you today.
Our congressional staffers on Capitol Hill are no longer comfortable being silent.
We were horrified by the brutal October 7th attacks on Israeli civilians, and we are horrified by the overwhelming response by the Israeli government that has killed thousands of innocent Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Our constituents are pleading for a ceasefire, and we are the staffers answering their calls every day.
Most of our bosses on Capitol Hill are not listening to the people they represent. We demand our leaders speak up, call for a ceasefire, a release of all hostages, and an immediate de-escalation now. We are gathered here today to mourn the loss of every single beautiful and innocent life. We join now in a moment of silence and interfaith prayer for those who we have lost.
I just wanted to say that this really inspired me, because making a call to that office isn't just to Senator Rounds Thune or Representative Johnson. It's to the person who's answering the phone calls as well. And sometimes they're our conduit and our voices to their bosses, and how they're talking about these issues and how they're learning about how South Dakotans feel about that. So there are 5 simple steps on how you can call our elected officials. And then I have a separate slide on what to do for President Biden's message line. So these are the phone numbers, toll free, and the Washington, D.C. phone number for each one of our elected officials in South Dakota. We will be sharing this webinar via email to all who have registered. And so if you don't have a piece of paper or a pen right now, this information will be available to you via email and on our website as well as social media. And it will also be on our Google form. So don't worry, we'll make sure that you have access to these phone numbers. So what do you do next? After you dial the number, you will speak to a staffer or a receptionist. Please remember to be polite and respectful throughout the entire call. And here's what you need to do when you reach the office. Start by providing your name and address to confirm that you are a constituent of from South Dakota. Oftentimes people ask, well, if I give my personal home address, will it be used in any other way? And the answer to that is no. This is private information that the staff uses to track how many calls are coming from what parts of South Dakota. So you could start by saying, my name is Taniza Islam, and I reside at 1234 Ceasefire Lane, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 57101. Then you may ask to speak with the appropriate staff member. In calling the DC office, you can surely ask for someone who works on foreign affairs or foreign policy staff member, as they are more likely to handle international issues. If you're not sure who to ask for, or just kind of forget what to say next, you can always just ask, could I connect with someone who can help me with my concerns regarding Gaza? So step 3, and when you've made these calls, is express your concerns clearly and concisely on the reason why you are calling about what is happening in Gaza. Obviously, we know a lot of what is happening and have a lot to say, but the more clear and concise you are, the more effective your message will be. And we have a suggested script for you below. Please remember that you're speaking to someone else on the line, more likely than not. You might get an answering machine and then you can just leave the message and it's a little less stressful. But it's very easy. Just be respectful and listen. They might ask you some questions. They may want to provide you more information. They may want to take note of your concerns and relay them onto representative or senators. So the suggested call script that we have come up with is very simple. I'm calling to express my concerns about the situation in Gaza and its impact on innocent civilians. Just this week, we learned about the horrendous bombing of the largest hospital in Gaza, where innocent medical professionals were killed and newborns have died because of the lack of power. And then make sure to end with an ask. We need a ceasefire immediately so diplomatic measures can take place to negotiate humanitarian assistance to Palestinians and the release of hostages. As a South Dakotan, I can't have my tax dollars funding killings of innocent people. So you can see with even how short that paragraph is, that getting right to the point and to the heart of it leaves no room for much to discuss. And then we ask that you end with an ask if you're talking to someone live. You could ask, will there be local opportunities to speak with the senators or Representative Johnson when they're back here in South Dakota? If yes, when are those opportunities? Or what is the best way to schedule a meeting once they are in South Dakota? And how do I know when they will be back in their offices here? And in our Google form, we do have a box that you can check if you're interested in meeting with our elected officials when they're back here in the Sioux Falls area. So pretty easy. I mean, once you do this one time, it'll be like a piece of cake, I promise. So the other thing that there is a national call to action on is to call President Biden's comment line and leave a respectful message. It's very important to know that this White House comment line, which is 202-456-1111, is only operational from Tuesday to Thursday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please put it on your calendar so you make sure you don't miss that window of opportunity to leave President Biden a comment. Again, the same rules apply. Just be polite and professional. Remember that your message will be recorded or reviewed by White House staff. Be respectful and professional in your communication. So again, this will just be kind of like a voicemail. So the suggested script to leave a message for President Biden is as follows. My name is Taniza Islam, and I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I am calling President Biden to urge him to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire so diplomatic negotiations can resume and innocent lives can be saved and hostages released. And that's it. You hang up the phone and you go on to the next one if you have some. So like I mentioned earlier, we are a small nonprofit organization and don't necessarily have access to reporting mechanisms like larger entities do. But what we have done is put together this Google form. And again, we will send you all of these links via email because you've registered for this webinar today. When you click this link, it will take you to a form that looks like this. And it is called our call log Ceasefire Now. And you will see here that you will have all of the information for the representatives and senators. And it looks like we need to add President Biden's line, so we'll make sure to do that. And then we have our suggested scripts right here. We also have fields for you to enter what date you've called, what your name is, your state and city zip code, and whether you would like to meet in person with the legislators when they're back in South Dakota. So we would really appreciate it that if you call Representative Johnson, one day you fill out this log. If you call Senator Thune an hour later, you come back and fill out this log. If you call the president's comment line, you come back to this and fill out this log. So every time you make a call, as you call every day from now until December 1st, we ask you to fill out this log so that we can tally all the calls that you are making. And so last but not least, we will be going through a little role play. Melissa, are you off mute for this?
I am.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do a little bit something a little funny. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear this, but here we go with our role play.
Senator Thune's office. Can I get your name and address?
Yes, my name is Taniza Islam and I reside at 1234 Ceasefire Lane, Sioux Falls, South Dakota 57101. Could you kindly connect me with someone who can help me with my concerns regarding Gaza?
Unfortunately, they are not available right now. Could I jot down your concerns and pass it along?
Yes, thank you. I'm calling to express my concerns about the situation in Gaza and its impact on innocent civilians. Just this week, we learned about the horrendous bombing of the largest hospital in Gaza, where innocent newborns have died because of the lack of power. We need a ceasefire immediately so diplomatic measures can take place to negotiate humanitarian assistance to Palestinians and the release of hostages. As a South Dakotan, I can't have my tax dollars funding killings of innocent people. Could you kindly relay this message to Senator Thune?
Yes, I will. Thank you for your time. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Yes, will there be an opportunity to speak with Senator Thune when he's back in Sioux Falls, South Dakota?
You may be able to access his calendar on his webpage, but you can request a meeting as well if there's time.
Okay, and what is the best way to schedule that meeting?
To call the local office.
And do you have that phone number?
I do, and here it is. And we will make sure to add that into, I believe it is on our Google form as well. So we will make sure to have the local number on there as well.
Great, thank you so much for your time. All right, and that's it. I think that maybe took 1.5 to 2 minutes. So again, when you hang up that phone, just go straight to our Google form so that we can keep track of how many calls have been made. So about 3 minutes per call maximum, depending on how engaged the person you're speaking with on the other side and how much time they give you. So if you can make a phone call every day to Senator Rounds, Thune, and Johnson's office, so that's 3, plus President Biden's comment line Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday from 10 to 2, you'll spend about 10 minutes of your day every day to making sure that your voice is heard as a constituent here in South Dakota. If everyone on this Zoom call calls every day, we can absolutely hit our goal of 500 calls from now until December 1st. And I'm excited to start seeing the numbers roll in from the Google forms that you will be filling out. So honestly, it's really that easy. Most of the time it can be nerve-wracking to make that first phone call, so I won't minimize that in any way, especially if you're not used to making calls like this. But please know that this is our duty and obligation as Americans, as citizens, as folks who are living here in South Dakota, to engage with our elected officials, to let them know that we are here and that our voice matters as well. So with that, I will open it up to questions. Melissa, do you have any that are coming to the forefront here?
Yep, there actually is a couple that just popped in there, and Tanisa, you should be able to see them yourself on
Okay.
the Q&A. And then I just wanted to let everybody know, as you do your phone calls, they will actually send you out a letter with every phone call. So hold those letters with pride for taking the time to do it. So just FYI, because don't be shocked if you all of a sudden get 4 of them in one day. They tend to pile them up kind of fast.
Right.
And one more note, Denisa, I mean, the format of the letter or the call you're leaving. I mean, events are changing and events are fluid. I mean, I'm referring to we just heard a week ago about bombing the hospital. I think that's not going to be the case probably 3 weeks from now, or these things may need to be modified based on the current events.
Thank you for that. And we can commit to updating kind of some scripts onto our website. So Melissa, if you wouldn't mind just dropping our website into the chat function here. So and of course, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. We're in all of those places. So as events are unfolding, we will commit to adding some more scripts. Because sometimes people just have a hard time starting, but they're good with editing something that's already there. So thank you, Dr. Awadella. We'll make that commitment. And if there's anything you would like us to emphasize, as we're messaging and putting these scripts together, please do let us know.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I am looking at some answers here. I'm sorry, some questions. So Olympia has asked or has said that this is Lucy and Pia, who are under 18. I believe they're 12 and 10. And they're asking if there's a text or email option. There are those options, but the national call to action is phone calls right now. So even if it's after business hours, there will be an answering machine that's on. So you can absolutely leave your message on the answering machine. Let's see. I think someone had asked if there are any more protests coming up. One protest that I know is scheduled here in Sioux Falls is this Sunday at 2 p.m. at Faywick Park in downtown, organized by DSA, who has been very active in other local protests that are happening every Saturday, usually on the corner of 41st and Louise around that 2 to 4 o'clock as well. Just in solidarity. And it's been beautiful to see how that has diversified and grown over the last weeks as well. This is a more kind of, I would say, heated question, but I will read it. It says, let's see, as our comrade Natalie Means pointed out, and many Jewish people around the world are also working tirelessly to educate people around the world too, Zionism is not equivalent to Judaism and is in fact political philosophy founded on imperialist genocide. The Zionist vision of Greater Israel doesn't end with Palestine, but extends into many Middle Eastern countries. can we commit together today to an explicitly anti-Zionist messaging in our phone banking and conversations with our representatives? And to that, I will say people on our call today have different comfort levels with that. So we wanted to start our scripts and our basic messaging in a format where everyone can be engaged. And I would say you can add what you'd like. Those are just suggested scripts that we have offered to get you started. But as you have more knowledge or increase in knowledge, are more engaged, you can add whatever you would like to that messaging. Dr. Awadella, Natalie, did you want to add anything more to that question?
No, I think they're very polite messages, I can say. Not, and I wonder, can we have our coworkers or friends engage in this as well, or it has to be only us?
No, please share this widely. As I
Okay, good.
mentioned, we are recording this webinar. So once hopefully by tomorrow around lunchtime, we'll be able to email this out to everyone who is registered. Then you can share it with whoever you would like. We will also have it on our Facebook and Instagram for sure. So again, just another platform to be able to share the information so people feel comfortable with just what to expect. And then if folks have any questions, they're more than welcome to call us or email us here at Voices for Peace so we can help in any way that's possible. But yes, the more the merrier. If on December 1st, I can say we made 2,000 calls and over exceeded our expectations, that would be wonderful to be able to say. So this material doesn't live with us. It's for everybody and anybody who would like to engage. All right, I think those are really the main questions that I see. Any last questions?
I think the last one is, and you probably didn't see it because it just popped up. Are there any local social media sites or business that support Ceasefire that we should keep up with?
That is a great question. I am personally not aware of any businesses that have come out promoting Ceasefire here in the Sioux Falls area. What about you, Natalie, out there in Rapid City?
We had a candlelight vigil 2 weeks ago, and then it followed with a protest rally. And that's, as far as I know, that there are no official businesses, just community organizations and grassroots people.
Yes, but if you hear of any, please let us know and we'll definitely lift them in our social media as well. Well, the thing I love about shortened meetings is you get that time back and maybe you can relax for a moment. Actually, take these 15 minutes to make those phone calls and fill out that Google form, and let's get this rolling and make a difference and make some impact here locally with our elected officials. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time and your interest. If this is something you think is helpful and you'd like to see more of, please let us know that as well. And all of our social media and email addresses and phone numbers are all right here. So feel free to contact us, send us private messages on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, or email or call us. We are available to assist in any way that will be impactful in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go make some phone calls. Bye.
Thank you. Have dinner first. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.